Welcome back to The Nest. This is our second episode. I'm Gianni Fiore.
I'm Colton Van Cleave.
And I'm Jackson Boisvert.
And this week we're going to talk about what motivates us, and we want you guys just to get to know us a little bit more. So I'll start off. I'm really motivated by content creators because I think all of us as media production majors, we want to look at other content as well as make our own. So I'm motivated by a lot of popular YouTubers like Casey Neistat, a famous vlogger, people like that who are out there every day. They're filming, they're editing, they're grinding, and I hope to kind of do that on my own life. But what about you, Colton?
Really, there's a lot of stuff with the production side of stuff. I mean, I think, I guess kind of growing up, I've always wanted to do TV journalism, I guess, kind of going into this. Now I've kind of changed myself more of like into promotion and marketing. I kind of like that kind of stuff. As far as like filming though, I love film. I have like a great taste for film, and I think one of my favorite, I want to say directors, is Quentin Tarantino. I love his movies. I think his movies are amazing, just how they're drawn out.
Yeah.
And also even too, like writers too. I think we always kind of overlook writers in film. And that's Stephen King. Like I love Stephen King films. I love his storylines, and I think even if you watch kind of some of my short films that I kind of have on SSTV, that they are kind of related to that. I would like to do more Quentin Tarantino stuff, but I don't know how much that really would be allowed on SSTV.
I mean, that's an
All
interesting
the
thing. A lot of our content is inspired by content that we've seen, right? From other people like Quentin Tarantino, like Stephen King.
And I think once, you kind of find your, person or persons that you kind of look up to, you kind of develop like your own kind of style.
Sure.
And I think with that, you kind of create something unique as well.
Jackson, who do you look up to?
Who do I look up to? I like a lot of people in the industry. It's hard to pinpoint one person because I have so many different interests. I'm really interested in the production side, but I'm also very interested in the talent side. So talent-wise, I think Anderson Cooper's great. Production-wise, I'm a big fan of, like you said, Quentin Tarantino. He's probably one of my favorites. Along with, I love James Cameron. I'm a big fan of whole Star Wars work. I love a lot of the Avengers stuff too with the Russo brothers. But I also like a lot of indie, like smaller scale guys. Like I love music videos. One of my favorites is I love the guys of Lyrical Lemonade. So I love like Cole Bennett and guys like that who do like a lot of smaller stuff, like more minimalist production, but they still have really cool effects.
Do you have like a favorite music video, either of you? Like for me, like a recent one that I think about is the Maroon 5 one. It's Girls Like You. And they had that really cool just spinning shot the whole time. And a lot of famous celebrities, really female celebrities out in the industry on the video. And I thought that was just really interesting, like really compelling stuff.
Of course.
It's inspiring.
I think as far as like music videos are concerned, like I've always been the biggest Imagine Dragons fan.
Sure.
And I think for the reason, just like also like the meaning behind the music. And even like the music video itself, like, I'm trying to think of an example off like the top of my head. Let's say Thunder. People kind of look at that music video and they're just like, that's kind of like a weird music video, like these weird things kind of coming out of nowhere, just staying still. But there's deeper meaning behind that. And I think with most musicians too, they also kind of have that kind of way about them. That's also like the aesthetic part of media, because if you're able to create that kind of look, and that's when people can be like, oh, okay, like, that's, I have to really think about this when you look at it.
Sure.
I think when you're able to do that, that's when it's, you did something really well, because my short film I did in April, Night Sky, and I had this part with my friend Anthony, and we were walking down the dark path, and basically, like, long story short, I'm like almost like his guardian angel. And he is, like a normal person, of course, and I'm basically walking alongside him. There's a deeper meaning behind that film. You can watch. I really don't want to spoil it, but if you watch that scene, and you notice when I walk away and how he kind of stands off to the side, there's a deeper meaning behind that and why we chose that certain location. So I think with film and music videos, if you're able to kind of create that aesthetic, it's an amazing thing. It's almost like a work of art.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the whole point of music videos anyway. It's the artist and another creative type coming together to kind of portray how the artist interprets the music that they create. We could all listen to a song and get something different out of it, but it's each going to be kind of unique to our own perspective based on what we experience it, and then we can look to a music video to see, well, this is how the artist feels about all that.
Sure, yeah. I think it was interesting that you went off on that tangent about your own short film, because as directors, even as writers, whether it's songwriter, script writer for a movie, every word matters, every camera shot has something behind it, some kind of meaning. And I think that's really the hardest part about production, is that, you really have to think about every single thing you do. And then I think not a lot of people really think about that, not the average moviegoer, but for us, I think that's so important when we find our inspiration from other artists and other content creators. We know that there was so much thought that went into what they made, right?
And I think that's the hardest part of being, like a producer or a director, because I think that's what separates the amateur from the professional, because I think anybody can grab a camera and create like a short film or anything, but I think what separates them from the professionals is that you're actually able to kind of create like a work of art behind it. You actually get to create like a meaning behind certain things, and it takes a lot of thought too, and I think some people overlook this field, this communication studies field that we're in, because people are like, oh, like it's so easy. It's just camera and just talking from a camera, and it's not that easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, before we started recording, we were talking about TikTok and Vine and different other outlets where you can make a short video really easy. You can record anywhere, and that can end up going viral. But I was going to say that, once it goes viral, people forget about it, right?
Of course.
But if you make a movie, if you're James Cameron, if you're Quentin Tarantino, and you make a movie, people remember it for years. People look back on it for years. And I think that's really the advantage that we have as content creators who are out here really trying to do it professionally and not just, as a hobby, right? I think that's really interesting.
Of course. And I think that's also like the style too, because I think everyone always remembers that certain style.
Sure.
With these directors, and I think people will also notice that this is a Quentin Tarantino movie, or this is, I think people look at a movie and just be like, oh, like I kind of like these movies, but they kind of overlook the production side behind it. And there's always, a certain style that certain people have.
And a lot of the times too with movies is that they can get recognized for having bad production.
Of course.
Sloppy camera angles,
Sure.
not good audio.
Yep.
A bad cast that, didn't really do a good job selling the sort of direction. For example, one movie I like to reference is growing up I used to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. So when the movie came out, I thought they did a horrible job with it, honestly. It was the acting was subpar.
Sure.
The set design and stuff like that was really nice. It created a really vivid imagery of a look into like the worldscape they were trying to make, but like the effects were a little lackluster.
Yeah, I think that happens with a lot of movies, and I think the important thing is that as content creators, we can't always blame one person or one party when a production goes wrong or when a movie turns out really bad. Sometimes it's the writing, sometimes it's the editing, other times it's just the director, right? I mean, it's so many hands are in that jar when you're making a movie or a TV show, and it's so hard because it is such a collaborative experience, right? And if you guys don't work together well, then you don't make a great product.
Exactly. Even like just how long a certain scene would be filmed too, because it could probably take maybe 2 hours just to film 1 minute of a film. And I think I even know that too from personal experience with when I just started doing short films last year, and I'm just like, you're staying up almost all night sometimes, trying to, your end goal is always kind of better than what it actually really is. And I think coming into like a night or something for a production, you'll just be like, oh, we're gonna try and get this whole, scene done. Or actually, you only get maybe like a quarter of the scene done for the whole
Sure.
night, because I think if you're almost like really into the aesthetics behind it, you want to make sure that every single shot is perfect and it's placed in a certain way.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about time and time management, because I think about shows like SNL, where it's every week they're live, so they get 6 days of prep. And a lot of the times they make these really great skits for people to watch, and we don't really think about how much work really went into that, especially like the digital releases
Crunch
that
time.
they do.
Yeah.
It really is crunch time for them. every week. That must be such a
And the
stressful.
sets that have to be set up
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
On the flip side of that, you have shows like Game of Thrones, where they took months just to get one scene perfect
Sure.
because they have that kind of time and budget.
Yeah.
And Game of Thrones is probably one of my favorite shows to reference for like cinematography and kind of how they're so good at creating the sets.
Yeah.
And everything that they do, it just flows so naturally.
Do you guys remember that snafu that happened like a few months ago on Game of Thrones when they left the Starbucks cup?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
everyone was talking about that. I feel
I'm
like.
not really a big Game of Thrones fan myself. I really don't watch it.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of going off what you were saying about that, it's actually kind of amazing too, because I think also people overlook the branding side of communication, because what we actually learned about this in Moore's class freshman year, how Star Wars and all that was like one of the first series to actually come out that they actually put out like toys and games and all that for it. So movies can also create other opportunities outside the production itself, and I think Game of Thrones also does that too, because aren't there like I don't watch the show, but aren't there like teams or something that people can choose from? Or I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan myself, but you probably have to explain to me what Game of Thrones is, but
Different houses, I guess.
Different
Yeah,
houses.
different houses. I mean, if we could go on a tangent for
We
Game
could.
of Thrones
You
for a
could.
really
I don't know if you
long
have enough time
time.
for that, but
Yeah.
But no, yeah, everything that is like content, you can make a brand out of everything. Everything is a brand. Even athletes take advantage of branding, and along with celebrities as well. For example, like I know Ellen has her own clothing line. Beyonce has her own clothing line. The Ivory Park. Even like for example, like Big Baller Brand for like Lonzo Ball. That's his own clothing line. So a lot of people, when you have this public image, when you have this media attention kind of geared towards you, whether it's because you are a film franchise or you're a content creator or you're someone who's constantly being recorded because you're doing music or you're an athlete, you have this opportunity to stage a platform to further define yourself in the audience's eyes, the eyes of the public.
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of the reason why most people kind of hate when their favorite band or artist kind of changes genre, because with communication, like you're so used to a certain genre with this certain kind of band, you identify them as that, and then once they kind of change their genre, let's say if like an artist goes from like
Like
rock,
Taylor Swift,
rock to,
pop to, or
yeah,
country to
that's a good
pop.
example. Or wasn't like Bon Jovi rock to like now he's like country or something? He kind of does part country, I think so. But he, it's just amazing because like a certain audience is so used to that, and when they change that, the communication is kind of off balance.
Yeah. I think that's also, there has to be a delicate balance too. You were talking about branding and toys that come out with certain movies, and I think a lot of the times you hear these stories about directors who have totally had their visions impostered on because people come in, the studios come in and they say, oh, well, when you release this movie, make sure that you have a lot of scenes with this character in it because we're going to have this toy come out and we need people to buy it. And I think that's a dangerous line that a lot of studios need to be careful that they ride, because I think that's such a sad thing that you hear, is that directors lose their movie almost to studios sometimes,
Very true.
and to marketing.
Yeah, playing off of that, the whole thing with Sony and Marvel
Sure.
and Disney. There was like a brief, 2 weeks that like Spider-Man was basically no longer gonna have a third movie, and then they
Yeah.
were able to hash it out. But that's crazy. Spider-Man was created by Stan Lee, who was a creator for Marvel. Marvel got bought out by Disney, so now Disney has the rights to all of the Marvels, except for a few that I think got prior license to before the merge.
Sure.
So it's just kind of very interesting that, we live in a world where this man's vision, his comics that he put so much effort in, that was his life work, they're now being passed around and exploited in a sense
Yeah.
for money, for market, for profit.
Yeah, and Spider-Man is such a marketable character. He's probably the most iconic superhero, I think. He's in the Macy's Day Parade. He's everywhere.
Definitely.
That face, everyone knows Spider-Man.
And there's
Right.
been so many Spider-Mans
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I think even too, like kind of going off the brain too, that even like I think the most notable villain of all time with the Joker, now that, that was off the Batman series. Now just because people love that character so much, now they're creating a whole new movie for that based on just one person, the Joker. And
Sure.
it's, there's so many different windows of opportunity if filmmakers can actually just see it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of times people talk about Hollywood and how all they do is just remake movies, or they reboot this, reboot that. But an interesting point you bring up with the Joker is that some people come in and they take a character in a totally new direction. So it's not exactly a reboot or a rehash of anything, it's something entirely new, right? I think that's a really great thing. Speaking of the Joker, we haven't seen it yet, but I know we're both planning on it, Colton and I. But I don't know about you, Jackson, are you?
I want to see
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
I think we all want to see it, but something that I've been reading is that, typically you see the Joker paired with Batman. So the Joker's the villain of the movie, Batman comes in, he saves the day. It's binge watch and repeat, right? But with this movie, people are saying that the Joker is like the hero of the movie, or he's being marketed that way at least. So I think that'll be really interesting to see when we go to see it.
It looks like a good movie though. I think also too there's, with the Joker, and it's kind of funny just to see how, it's either make or break with those kind of movies because, if you make, this isn't so much like a spin-off of the original Joker. I've never seen the movie yet, so I can't say, but I think when people kind of walk that fine line of kind of, I want to say like kind of bringing a character out of like their own element to like a whole new different thing, that can make or break it. And supposedly from what I heard, this movie actually is pretty good, and people actually really do like this movie, so I definitely can't wait to see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of Oscar talk about it, so
Yeah.
We'll definitely see in the coming months. I think this is a movie that will carry word of mouth and carry discussions for months, maybe years.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. So, getting back to what motivates us, I know Colton, you recently interviewed Bob Kelly. What did you find to be kind of inspiring about him?
It was really inspiring because like he's a funny guy first off, and actually it's fun fact actually I met him prior in 2014 I think it was, and obviously you wouldn't remember me, but no, he's a funny guy, and he gave a great presentation, and he was basically just talking about like the evolution of like the game of hockey, and how he said how back in like the 70s when he used to play, people would just go to watch a war and then leave. It'd be that simple. It'd just be like a hockey game. Because of course back then I think the rules were a lot different, and like fighting would last a lot longer.
It was definitely a more physical game.
A lot physical, but I just don't think it's funny how people actually overlook like the evolution of the game, because he was talking about like the Wells Fargo Center had like $500 million in renovation. It's insane. That's actually a small number compared to like some of the NHL stadiums that actually have over, I don't want to say over, but about like $1 billion. I think that's what Bob Kelly said, and it's funny because of course arenas back then weren't like how they are now. Now you have jumbotrons where you have games that you can kind of watch between intermissions, and also the kiss cam or whatever it may be. People are always looking to be entertained, even when there isn't play happening. And I think that's also a really interesting point, because he was kind of relating it to PR and communications, because again that creates so many windows of opportunity, and it's just amazing to see. It really is.
Yeah, I'm reading now about the Wells Fargo renovations. The newest one to come out is going to be a rage room.
A rage room.
Oh yeah, I
That'll
saw
be
that.
interesting.
I saw a little bit of that on social media. They had like a room that was kind of isolated, and there was like a baseball bat in there. It showed Gritty in it,
Yeah.
and there was just like some broken glass, like a TV that he could like swing at, and just like
Only Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the season, knock on wood, keeps going the way it's been going. We're one of the only few undefeated teams. I don't know if either of you guys are hockey fans, but I'm a Flyers fan. But we're one of the, I believe, there's only 4 other teams that are undefeated still. Season's still early, but it's good to come off to a strong start like that.
Definitely, for sure. And that definitely brings some more ticket sales, that's for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And a lot more fun for Gritty, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
For the rage room. That's funny.
Yeah. So I think we should probably wrap up here for today. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to plug? I know the Bob Kelly interview is on SSTV, so we can link that below. You can also find it on the channel. Remember to subscribe to SSTV, and we want to thank them for letting us use the studio here to do the Nest. Jackson, anything interesting going on for you?
No, just continue watching. I might be working on some new content for the SSTV channel coming soon. We'll see how that turns out. But other than me, now keep watching. We appreciate you guys tuning into us.
Pretty soon we're going to be on Spotify, Apple Music, really anywhere that you can get a podcast. So be on the lookout for that. We'll have it linked on all of our social medias and on SSTV as well. And we're looking forward to the coming months, really, for the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fresh start for the Nest.
Definitely.
Really exciting.
Yeah. So episode 2, I think that's a wrap. Thank you for watching. Once again, I'm Gianni Fiore.
I'm Colton Van Cleave.
And I'm Jackson Boisvert.
Have a great weekend, Stockton University. Want to do that again?